this is a sort of new age marketing that has started, right? Where a lot of brands are trying to build community
Right.
around themselves.
Exactly.
Right? Something what OnePlus did, something that Harley did.
The current market, like by 2024, it will be growing to $70 billion. 2029, it is expected to grow to $270 billion.
Hi everyone, welcome to Less Sucky Podcast. This is our first ever podcast, and today we are talking about D2C. And for the same, we have with us Shehbaz Tamboli.
Thanks for joining. Today, we will talk about what is D2C, what are its benefits, and how the market is evolving. So let's get started.
So Shehbaz, today's podcast is all about D2C, right? We have been hearing a lot about D2C, the rise of D2C. There are so many people talking about D2C.
Correct.
So let's start with a very basic question, right? What is D2C? How do you define D2C?
D2C refers to direct to consumer marketing, where brands can sell the product directly to the customers without relying on the middlemen like wholesalers and retailers. And they have more control over controlling the pricing, the marketing, the customer engagement stuff. So if you see the current market, like the Indian market is growing towards by 2024, it will be growing to $70 billion.
Okay.
Whereas by 2029, it is expected to grow to $270 billion.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And this particular industry is growing at a 40% CAGR year on year.
That's huge. I also think D2C, as you rightly said, right? It's direct to customer.
Right.
There is no middleman. I believe because it's direct to consumer. Brands get a lot of control over what they are selling, how they are selling,
Correct.
the stories that they make.
Right.
And somewhere I also feel, while a lot of people are talking about D2C, I still feel there is a lot of confusion when it comes to D2C and e-commerce, right?
Yeah.
I think both these things are totally different. As you said, D2C is direct to consumer.
Right.
E-commerce is something where you're just selling online, right?
Right.
So not necessary that you are selling through your website. Maybe selling through Amazon, selling through Flipkart, any other third-party platform out there that allows you to sell something online.
Correct.
Is e-commerce, right? So I would categorize e-commerce as something where you are just selling online through any and every platform.
Okay.
But when I say D2C, I think it's very specific. It's specific to how you as a brand are selling to your consumers directly.
Okay.
Right. So that's what I think is the main thing that a lot of people need to understand. Right. That e-com and D2C are two different things. That said, I also believe that with the e-com side of the business,
Right.
probably I would call this as rise of D2C 2.0.
Yeah. Right.
Wherein, say, you are selling through your own website. That is one part where you are trying to establish connections with your direct consumers, and then you're trying to sell the products to them.
Correct.
But on the other side, with D2C 2.0, what you're trying to do is essentially you're trying to leverage all these platforms, all these marketplaces out there.
Exactly.
That help you to reach to a larger set of audience, right? And probably even at a better cost, right? So I think that's the new thing. That's the new rise. And in fact, if you look at a lot of brands, you would also observe that a lot of brands start selling on the marketplaces first.
Exactly.
Establish a customer base over there.
Correct.
Get in some good reviews, build some credibility, and then probably the next step is where they start selling through their own website. Right?
Exactly. That's how the entire game changes for the small brands. Like to start a website, they can definitely use Shopify or WooCommerce to build their websites, right?
Yeah.
So this is where they can start selling on their own website. But before this, as you said, Amazon or any other marketplace like Flipkart is where they can start with. That is where any offline brand can come here.
True.
They can start. They can list their products and then start selling to the consumers directly.
Yeah.
Instead of relying with the distributors, the wholesalers,
Right.
and the retailers, right?
Yeah.
So where they have a very less amount of margin left with them.
Mhm.
So because of which they're not able to leverage the marketing stuff, they're not able to give discounts, they're not able to understand what exactly the consumer want.
Mhm.
With this step of going from like D2C to D2C e-commerce,
Yeah.
they can directly interact with their consumers,
Right.
and they can understand what their consumer behavior actually is.
Yeah.
Like so if you see a few of the major brands in India in D2C e-commerce is like both.
Yeah.
They do not
That's
sell
one example,
through any
yeah.
retailers or something. They directly started with the online store.
True.
What they did is they leveraged the influencer marketing. They used the celebrities in such a way that they can directly reach to their customers,
Yeah.
and that actually helped them grow onto the online space.
Right.
And then through their entire sales happens through their website,
Yeah.
and then through the marketplaces itself.
Yeah.
There was no need of any distributor or any wholesalers to market the product, right?
True.
So that's where the control is. They played with the pricing, they played with the offers,
Yeah.
time to time, and
Right.
that's where the entire game changed for them.
Right.
Similarly, Mamaearth, if you see, it started as a baby care product,
Yeah.
but then it only sold its product on Amazon and its website.
Mhm.
As it grew, right? As it grew, it started into the other skincare products,
Mhm.
right? So this is how, and this was possible because they were able to understand their consumer segment. They were able to communicate directly with them through personalized messages, emails,
Yeah.
right? And that actually helped them to understand what their consumer want.
Right.
They understood what exactly is the need of the market,
Yeah.
and then according to that they launched the products and then entered into that particular segment.
True. True.
Right.
I think this is also something. This is a sort of new age marketing that has started, right? Where a lot of brands are trying to build community
Right.
around themselves.
Exactly.
Right? Something what OnePlus did, something that Harley did pretty early, right?
Right.
Then, as you said about personalization, right? A lot of brands are focusing on hyper-personalization.
Right.
So, just to give you an example, I was reading somewhere, Starbucks uses AI to tailor their offers to their customers within the app, and this all depends on their past purchase behavior, right? So,
Amazing.
I think with the rise of D2C, with brands owning the websites, with brands owning their own apps,
Exactly.
right, and with all the sort of data that they're collecting, it has become very easy for the brands to hyper personalize all the offerings
Exactly.
that they have, right? You also mentioned about boat giving price drop offers and all these
Yes.
things, right? Now, because of D2C and because you have your own site, it becomes so easy to give a price drop offer or maybe offer to a certain set of audiences, right? Because nowadays, with all the kind of ad platforms that you use and with all the analytics platforms that you're using, it is pretty easy for any brand to put consumers in various buckets based on their behavior, right?
Correct.
And just because all these things are possible, the D2C brands have so much control over what they are selling, what price they are selling at,
Right.
what communication they
want to push. Right.
want to push to their consumers, right?
Right.
What kind of storytelling they want to control. So I also think you also touch based on the influencers, right?
Yes.
So now there are so many D2C brands who are solely pushing their products through the influencer network.
Correct.
Right? Influencers, now the benefit over here is, unlike in traditional marketing, right? Or unlike in the traditional market, I would say, where finding your target audience was a bit challenge.
Correct.
What the influencers are bringing on board is that through certain set of influencers, it's really easy to reach your target audience, right? So say for example, if there is a beauty influencer, right? It's so easy for a brand today to onboard an influencer, get in touch with them,
Correct.
crack a deal, and reach out to everyone who is interested in beauty,
Right.
right? Or maybe someone who is a sports influencer,
Right.
maybe someone who is influenced in the apparel category or in the fashion category, right?
Right.
So I think that is also one thing that is allowing all the D2C brands to actually leverage uh, all the possibilities out there, right?
Exactly.
So influencers are playing a major role in the entire D2C ecosystem.
Exactly.
And I think this is just the start of it, right? One point of time, we were looking at influencers who had an influence across the nation, right? But if you see in the recent past, there are so many influencers whom we can probably call as micro influencers, or maybe influencers from a specific city or a specific niche coming in, right? And the kind of following these guys have, the kind of influence these people have is crazy.
Exactly.
So now that influencer thing has also come down to such a level where you are looking at local influencers, right? People who are influencing a specific location, or the audience is in a specific location, or talking a specific language.
Correct.
So I think that is something that is proving as an advantage for all the D2C brands.
Exactly, there are a lot of opportunities into the D2C space when it comes to owning your own store. So as a brand owner, you have so many channels, so that you have control over them. Unlike traditional marketing, you had to rely on your distributors, on your wholesalers, on your retailers, so that they'll push your product. Here, that's not the game. You can directly reach out to the set of influencers into your particular segment who are most relevant, who has a relevant audience that resonates your brand, and then you can simply push your product, and that generates such a massive fan follow for you as well.
True.
And that helps you build your brand within years,
Exactly. Yeah.
sometimes even in months. So
Yeah.
it all depends on how powerful influencer you are able to onboard.
Right.
And then that's where the entire game changes. If you see,
True.
Boat, it started with Surya Kumar Yadav. He got like many celebrities, right?
Yeah.
So where it was really easy for them to enter into that market and capitalize it.
Yeah.
If had they taken the traditional approach,
Right.
till now they had been like they would have been just searching for the best retailers or best channel distributors, right? So the on ground activities that was supposed to be done, that would have taken years for them. But then with the help of these celebrities, within years they were able to establish themselves, and now you can see how big the boat is.
True. In fact, one such example, not exactly about influencers, but one example that comes to my mind is Nike. So I think around 2022 is when Nike decided to stop working with their retailers, right? I think they discontinued working with 9 of their retailers, some of the biggest ones that they were working with.
Okay.
And they planned to go online, right? So they planned to sell everything through their website, which is Nike.com, and then they have an app, I think, by the name of Sneaker,
Yes.
right? So that's where they thought of doing this activity. And in the last 2 years, so I think 20 or 22 is when they planned to do this. And till now, they have seen a 46% rise in their entire sale.
Nice.
So, which is amazing. So this is one example of how traditional brands are also leveraging D2C.
D2C,
Right?
exactly.
And I think there are a lot of D2C brands also who are trying to leverage offline, right?
Exactly.
So there are so many brands who started online as a D2C brand, selling it to consumers directly, and then probably they thought, let's also go offline, right?
Right.
Where we can actually engage with our audiences in person, right? And there are so many brands who have now established an offline chain,
Right. Exactly.
which I would still call D2C. The only thing is the experience is different.
Exactly.
Here, while you are experiencing the brand online, buying everything on the online front, in a store, it becomes more in person.
Exactly.
Right? You are able to engage better. So there are so many D2C brands who have started online, specifically if I talk about the Indian geography, Sugar is one such brand, right? Started online completely and now they are present offline also.
Present offline.
I think Wow Skincare also
Wow
is
Skincare.
another one.
Yes.
So the journey for a D2C brand is not limited to online only, is what I feel.
It is gone to offline.
Probably it starts with online, goes into the e-com sector
Yes.
that I told about, right?
Exactly.
Where you start leveraging all the third-party marketplaces.
Yes.
And then eventually, when the people start knowing you, when you know that people across a specific geography are buying,
Right.
you can always establish your small sort of store or a
Exactly.
chain of stores across a specific nation.
Correct.
Where you can also have an in-person engagement with your audiences,
Exactly.
right?
So I have one example of this. Like one of the lingerie brands in India, they started online.
Yeah.
Now they have offline stores, but that offline store is just limited to try.
Yeah.
You check the sizes and then you
Right.
need to go back and purchase it online.
Purchase online, yeah.
So
True.
that's how the entire D2C market, the brands are leveraging it. No,
Yeah.
you have to buy it online. Stores are present. But
I
this
think
is
it's the
only
same
limited
with
functionality.
it's the same with Lenskart as well, right? Where
Yes.
while they have so many stores offline, a lot of times if you want a fresh piece, generally they give you two options. If they have it available, you take it offline. Otherwise, you always have an option to order it online through the app, right? So it's more like a store where you can just go try out the different frames that are there.
Yes.
Decide which one you want to go ahead with, and then you do an online sort of purchase.
Exactly. And the reason why they are doing this, because they've cut down all the middlemen.
True.
And because of which they have higher margins with remaining with them.
Exactly.
And just because of that, what they are doing is they are able to offer good amount of discounts.
True.
Lowering their product prices.
Yeah.
And being competitive in the market.
Right.
So because the competition is so fierce,
Yeah.
every other day a new competitor is coming into the same segment. So they have to sustain into that market.
True.
So the pricing is the major factor, and this is how they are leveraging it.
Exactly. And when you say the competition is fierce, actually I was just reading something the other day. The CPM for Meta, especially for the D2C category, has gone up by roughly 27%.
Exactly.
Right, in the last few years.
Yeah.
So that itself tells you that how competitive the market is.
Exactly.
Today, I think if you look at the beauty category, or if you look at the apparel category, right, or even if you look at the category of men's grooming, there are so many brands out now, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And there is a cutthroat competition out there.
Exactly.
Right? But that said, I think for D2C brands, while the competition is really high, while the CPMs are going up, there is still a large opportunity because with every passing day, there are more and more people who are adapting internet.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
There are people purchasing new phones, getting introduced to the internet. The tier 3, tier 4 cities are getting high-speed connection, right? So this is the amount of people ordering online is just going to increase, right?
Absolutely.
While there is cutthroat competition, I also feel for any D2C brand, while there was a time where D2C brands could survive on the first conversion or the first sale that they got, right? They could actually make profits. Probably now is a time where your first sale is not a profit-making sale. It's maybe a loss-making, or maybe just takes you to break even.
Correct.
But unless you have repeat buyers, right, this game is not for you. Right?
Exactly.
So I think for any D2C brand, the major focus now has to be more on retaining their customers.
Exactly.
Driving in repeat purchases. And also you mentioned about platforms like Shopify, WooCommerce and all these things, right? I think Shopify is widely used by almost all the D2C brands nowadays across the globe, right? And with Shopify, you have so many options to integrate, options where you can integrate apps that drive brand loyalty to you, right? Which give you loyalty points, which can create offers for you, right? So now leveraging all these things have become so easy. I think 10 years back, if you had to do something like this, you had to actually go out, develop that feature, and then try how it's working. So the investment was very high, right?
Very high.
Now the investment is just a subscription fee. So I think even when it comes to retaining the customers or driving repeat purchases, there are so many things that you have at your disposal that you can try. And if that doesn't work, there is always an option that you have, which again can be implemented. You have a free trial, you have a small subscription fee, and you're all set.
Yeah, there are a lot of options for this, but as it is said, uh, getting your first customer or getting customers is easy, but retaining them is a tough
It's
job.
difficult, yeah. True.
So how to retain that? You have all these options available into the market.
Yeah.
As you said, you can get it at just a subscription fee
Right.
instead of developing them in house, and then you can leverage it so that you can have a good strategy in place to increase your customer lifetime value.
Right.
And that is
Right.
where the entire game is going to change.
Exactly.
So I think we can deep dive into more things with respect to how the pricing strategy should be for D2C e-commerce, how the profitability should be drawn down for them, and how we should be if you are a new brand who wants to get into this D2C.
Yeah.
So we can get into deep conversation to it into our next podcast maybe. Uh,
So in fact, I have some interesting stats here, Shahbaz. So roughly 73% of people prefer buying directly through the brand, right?
Yeah.
So now this is such an important metric. People, again, as a traditional, we were talking about the traditional way of selling, right? Where you had the distributors, you had the retailers and all these things. And then the product would finally reach you.
Correct.
I think on the online front also, that's the trend that we are seeing. When I say roughly more than 70% people are actually willing to buy from the brand directly, that also means that again, in the internet space also, they are willing to cut down on all these middlemen, right? Maybe the marketplaces or probably the any third-party platforms that are selling things, right? So that is interesting. The other interesting fact is that the spends on D2C brands have they have actually increased by 60%. If you look at the stat from 2017 to 2023, right? So what D2C brands were spending in 17, 23, it's almost up by 60%.
That's great.
So I think looking at all these numbers, as we were also discussing, this is probably the right time for any D2C brand to come in, establish, right? And when there are more than 70% people willing to buy directly from the brand, I think it all boils down to the trust that you are able to create with your customers, right? And I think like we prioritize experience on the offline front, online also is the same, right? So if you are able to give a good experience to your consumers, right from the time they know about your brand, they land on your website, they go through it, they buy something, and then till the time the product gets delivered, right? If that entire journey, if the experience is really great, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would continue buying from the brand directly rather than relying on the third-party platforms.
Amazing. Yeah. This is interesting.
In the coming podcasts, I think it will be great to dive deep into various topics, right? Because there is so much to do when it comes to D2C. It's not only about starting a brand, but there are so many moving levers that you have to control for things to work, right? So maybe the next podcasts is where we cover topics in more depth. We discuss more about what's happening across the globe, what's new that's coming in, what is it that you can pick up, apply to your brands.
Absolutely.
That could give them wings to fly, right? So on to the next podcast, and let's hope our viewers enjoy this and they stay tuned.